Welcome to the Heart to Heartland podcast. Here are your hosts.
Then more messages from you
Oh
guys.
my gosh.
Stephanie Roy wrote, this is a long message, by the way.
Okay.
But I'm glad that people are actually, taking
Yes.
time
Yes,
to.
please send us
Yeah.
paragraphs.
It says, overall, I do love Tammy. I love how they grew as a couple and eventually learned to trust each other. One thing I didn't like what the writers did is have Amy and Ty break up in season 8. Basically, this whole situation I hate. I'll explain more in a moment. In the early season of Heartland, they have Amy and Chase kiss and Ty and Blair kiss. I hate how Ty didn't tell Amy about this since it meant nothing to him, but yet later in season 8, Amy is hesitant to tell Ty because she doesn't want to upset him, and the kiss also didn't meant anything.
Mm-hmm.
Ty later finds out and gets mad at her, which I understand. My point is, I don't like how the writers did the same sort of plot that they already did in the early seasons and have them go through almost the same thing again.
Literally.
Yeah. You would think by now Amy would realize that being open and honest with Ty, even when it's hard, is ultimately what's best for their relationship, which she showed in season 4.
Agreed.
Thankfully, after this, I do think they were more honest with each other and better with communicating. My favorite scenes are them dancing in the back of Ty's truck. I mean, come on, that's adorable.
Yeah.
Or when Amy is slowly getting her sight back in season 7 and Ty's looking up at her and Amy tells him he has really green eyes, basically telling him she can see again. His reaction,
that was good.
Yeah, his reaction is adorable and heartwarming. You can see the relief on his face. Them working together is always good. But lastly, Ty and Amy reconnecting later in season 8 at Pike River, it was long overdue and much needed for all the Tammy fans. I want to talk about the blindness thing because there was a point where Amy was like, okay, I might not get my sight back. Like, I don't want you to feel obligated to be with me because it's not what you signed up for. And he's kind of like, what are you talking about? Like, don't even, like, I'm here and everything. Like, do you think, like, how do you see their relationship if Amy had not gotten her sight back? Like, do you think their relationship would have lasted that kind of change?
I don't think so, and here's why. Because, I mean, anyone who has that severe of an injury that you lose your sight, I mean, you're gonna lose it mentally too. You're gonna, you're gonna be upset, you're gonna be angry, and you're probably gonna push people away. So, in my opinion, I don't think they would have lasted because she would have just pushed him away because she didn't want him to have to give up his life to take care of her.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what would have happened.
Yeah. I also think that, we know that Ty was very, like, protective of her and wanted to kind of, I don't know what to call it, but, like, do a lot of things for her. And I could see him kind of, like, overcompensate. He was, like, he could have gotten overprotective of her, and maybe that would have caused friction because he would, or she would have maybe felt like he was being too much and she wouldn't have independence because, losing sight and having to learn to live with that and, kind of build your life again in a way that you have to learn all the things in a new way again. He could have created this drift between them because, he would have just wanted to help, but she would have been like, I don't want to feel like I'm burdened or like you don't have to. Kind of like Jack and Lisa.
Right.
When he had his heart attack. and she was like, I just want to help you, and that's it, like I'm all in. And then she would have been like, because she's a lot, in many ways she's kind of like Jack,
Oh, absolutely.
because she doesn't like change and wants her things done in a certain way. So I could have seen that kind of thing happen. Like, I don't think it would have been very easy for them. I think there could have been a breakup, but
Yeah.
maybe at some point they could have gone back together when they're both kind of found their role that they could have, have in that relationship, because in a way that would have changed the whole balance of their relationship, or
Absolutely.
shook it a lot. So
That would have been a massive test,
yeah.
relationship-wise. I was watching that particular scene this morning when Amy said, like, you didn't sign up for this, whatever. And then he said, that just made me realize that our time is precious. And I'm like, that means so much more now that he's dead.
Yeah,
You know
there's
what
a
I
lot
mean?
of that kind of stuff, and
Oh,
like
like
I
there's so
was,
much foreshadowing that I didn't even
yeah,
like realize. And obviously no one else would either because they didn't know at the time that he was gonna die.
yeah, but that just kind of makes it more even like kind of spooky in a way.
Dude, I had like my heart stop for a second. I was like, oh my gosh, that hurt. It hurts because he's gonna be dead in like 7 years.
And there was this music video I was watching earlier, and has this scene from season 13 when they are saying goodbye to Luke, I think. And
Right.
he was like, this isn't, he says something like, this is not goodbye, it's just bye for now, or something. And
Oh
if you
man.
look at that in the context of, his death, and you might think of it in a different way. It's kind of like, we might see each other again or something like that. But
Oh my goodness.
there's a lot of those things that kind of make
That's
you,
powerful, yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Well, that's, you know what? I really was hoping they would bring Luke back because of their connection. And it's not even that I necessarily like the kids' storylines, but I liked him and Ty together.
Yeah.
And I felt like Luke was a pretty good fit. I was surprised that they didn't bring him back, and I would be intrigued to see if they would, and if he knows that Ty's gone or not. Like if he were to show up and be like, "Oh, where's Ty?" or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like I have so much to tell him, and
I
he's
know.
like,
Like realistically, do you think that he would know?
I think maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
because I think,
I would have loved to see that actually, like on
he
the show.
probably wanted to keep in contact with him
Right.
even after he left. So maybe he would have called, and Amy would have had to, break the news. Maybe he was
Yeah.
even at the funeral, like, we don't know, but in my
That's true.
mind,
We
I
don't know about a
assume,
funeral.
yeah.
Wait, so then for the funeral, they must obviously there isn't like a grave because he was cremated.
Maybe
So
there's
like
like a
what kind of a
stone
funeral?
where
Or maybe they
you
just
know
did like I don't know.
because isn't there like when, well, I've only been to one funeral where someone has been cremated, but I
Same.
think there's still that headstone somewhere where you can go
Okay.
to kind of remember the person.
I
So
see.
maybe that's kind of what happened with them. I don't know. But
Fair.
I always thought that, like, around season 6 or something, that Ty would somehow, find himself to work with kids a lot like,
Yeah.
himself. So I wish we would have seen the whole Luke thing maybe earlier, because
Mm-hmm.
right now it kind of, looking back, it feel like kind of like what I said, like they want to tie
Yeah.
these like loose ends before they have to give up the character.
Right.
Because it would have been kind of like, even though he was a vet, I also think he would have could have volunteered to help kids
Right.
with Clint, and I think that would have been a beautiful story, you know, with Amy helping horses and him helping kids who are
Honestly, that's actually like something I could have seen them doing in the future as
yeah,
once they get older, like
yeah,
older.
yeah, because I think a lot of children could benefit from the presence of the horses, and so
Right.
that they could have worked together in that regard as well. So
That's actually a really good idea. I could really see that happening
yeah,
if he was alive in that universe still.
yeah, yeah. I always imagined that that would happen at that point. So when they got involved with Luke, I thought, okay, maybe this is what's
Yeah.
gonna happen from now on. But
Yeah.
then it was like, oh, he's dead.
He did.
Yeah. Okay, so HL Horses said, to be honest, I was never really that interested in their relationship. I didn't hate it or anything. It just never interested me like Chiza or Mitch and Lou or Tim and Casey. Some of the writing choices weren't the best, but yeah,
I love it.
I love that this person felt brave enough to comment that, because I know
No
a lot of
kidding.
people maybe attack sometimes if
Oh my god, I
sometimes if
remember
you
getting
don't.
attacked all the time for it on Twitter.
Yeah, because it's like people always assume that of course everyone loves them, but
Yeah.
it's like, well, it's just not for everyone.
Like
That's
the
just
reactions I straight up would get from people, whether it was like at events or just like talking to fans in general, they're like, "Oh my god, I love Ty and Amy," and I'm like, "Oh, I love Jack and Lisa." Huh? Like
yeah,
those kinds of reactions, and it's like, I don't know. I didn't pick them. I
yeah.
decided to watch the show, and here we are.
Yeah, and it feels like sometimes the couple chooses you, and it's just like
Yep.
you're like, okay, well, I guess this
Because
is
in
what
the
my
books,
life
it
is
was
now.
Ty exactly, and I automatically assumed like, oh, Ty and Amy on the show, but I never ever connected with them like I did Jack and Lisa.
Yeah, it's just like it's not for everyone, and I
No,
think it's important
and
for
they're
people
fictional
to
characters, so
remember that. Yeah.
yeah.
Then Barp5532 said, I was unfortunate to only discover Heartland last year, so my answer is probably different than if I watched it for 15 years. I think
Right.
their relationship is the greatest love story I have ever seen. The writing
Aw.
is amazing because I binged it in a short period of time and continue to watch it repeatedly. I would have been able to find inconsistencies. I have hardly found any. I love the early relationship with all the ups and downs. I
Right.
love the anticipation of waiting for the first kiss throughout the first season, the Gabin episode with the first I love you, the passion in the two big fights, breakups. Probably my favorite episode solely because I knew they were getting married in the future. The
Aw.
frustration of the non-proposals, the starlit proposal, the wedding, the boy in the loft lines, the walks around the pond, picnics in the field, sitting at the back of the truck, the pregnancy, Lindy, and then they said, but as you can see, I am consumed. I just found your podcast and really enjoy reliving your memories. I think this was interesting comment
That's
in many ways,
incredible.
but definitely because, you know, like you said, we've been watching this show for, I don't know, 10 years by now. So we've lived through the weekly episodes
Right.
and the waits between the seasons and,
Mm.
you know, the filming
Oh
of
my god,
seasons.
people are lucky to just be able to like start it and binge it all the way through.
Yeah.
When season 6 finale hit and Jack was laying there on the ground, we had to wait months and months. Y'all don't have to do that on the Netflix.
Yeah, it's like, well, let's see if he's alive
Next
or not.
episode.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had to wait months.
But I also think at the same time when I see people being like, oh, I just binged every season and now I have to wait. I kind of feel that my experience for me is better because it teaches me patience
Oh my God, yeah.
and like you
Yeah.
have to kind of learn to live with waiting on the episodes
Well,
because
that's just it. And it's like, the anticipation and like building up towards it and how exciting you get for like a new episode to see what happened. Like there's nothing like that.
yeah, and I think even with the weekly episodes, I mean, we always talk between the episodes and we're like, okay, so
Always.
this happened, like what do you think happens next? And
Yeah.
even if it doesn't end up happening, it's like this fun another story that we kind of build up because when you're binging the show, you don't have room for that kind of
No.
play.
No,
And
you don't.
especially between the seasons, like that's a long wait. And then when
Yeah.
you're watching the filming of the season and you're like, okay, so maybe this is gonna happen, like we've
Putting
been
the
doing.
pieces together, yeah.
Yeah, so it's rewarding to me
Right.
in a way that I don't think
It is.
binge watching would be because it
Fair
works
enough.
with other shows that I might not be as
Yeah.
passionate
Yeah.
about. But then
Mhm.
with Heartland, it's like it just adds that much more excitement to wait.
Yes. It's different than everything else.
Yeah. So I like that, but at the same time, I also recognize that because I don't, just watch everything from one sitting, I might not have this same takeaway than someone
Right.
else would who has just
That's why
watched.
that comment was really intriguing because of that.
Yeah,
But
because to them it's like, okay, I see it as a whole, but to
right.
me it's like these fragments of the actual storyline and then the things that I was maybe expected to happen.
Yeah,
but
or you
didn't.
or you remember like I remember this certain scene and it's like I remember the photos from set that day. I remember what I thought could possibly be happening, like those kinds of things that obviously you don't get when you binge through
Yeah.
something.
So
So
it's always something that I try to keep in mind when maybe having a discussion with someone who has just watched like 14 seasons, because they can be like, okay, so this is definitely what happened and this is what I think about it. And I'm like, how can you think that? Like, it's just so different from what I'm thinking, because not only like do we have different backgrounds, but the way we've seen the episodes or the show
Yeah.
as a whole is so different that it affects my feelings and
yeah.
perspective of everything. So
Yeah, exactly. The
so
perspective's different.
yeah, that's interesting that it can actually make such a difference. Like, it can be the same story but seen from a very different perspective.
Exactly. Now, I want to know how long it took this person to binge 14 seasons.
Yeah,
because like that's crazy.
yeah,
I just binge watched a 7-season show and it took me a while to do. I can't imagine binging 14 seasons because there aren't like any shows with 14 seasons that I've ever binged.
yeah. And
so like
it's
that's
like,
crazy.
are you working at the same time, or like
are you
have
employed?
Yeah,
do
like
you have
other
a life?
commitments, or
Yeah.
like
Love it.
because yeah, sure, you can watch them at one sitting, but you have to sleep and eat and everything.
Get up and go to have a shower or something,
But
so
it's
I'm
just
actually interested to see how long that took. That's
Yeah.
funny. That's a really cool comment.
But at the same time, because I've watched the show the way I've watched it, I just
Right.
can't imagine myself binging all of it.
Right? Like, I really want to start over from the beginning and watch it all the way through, but I'm like, there's so many different reasons that I don't want to.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just like, I don't know.
Maybe
It's weird. It's different.
when the show ends at some point,
Yes.
I might need like a few years to kind of
No, and like
close
not even
that
joking.
wound. And
Not
then,
even joking. Like, we will actually need time to heal because this has been.
Because it's a lot to kind of process that it's, that's the end. And I think I need that kind of moment to give it that.
I'm going to be going off the grid to cry for a year and then I'll be back.
I can't imagine myself being like, okay, I'm starting from the scratch.
Yeah.
I
No, it's probably gonna hurt for a while, honestly.
yeah, and I think I need that moment. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I want to find someone to binge it with though. Like even if I could like find a friend like in whenever Heartland ends in a year or two later
yeah,
and be like, "Hey, do you want to binge the show with me?" Because I feel like it would be a lot more fun to binge it with someone who's never watched it and then someone who has watched it. I think that would
yeah,
be freaking cool.
because
And
they could be like,
yeah,
ah, that's
yeah.
weird, and I'm like, yeah, no, it
Is it?
doesn't make a lot of sense, but like you'll get it
Yeah. And I'll
eventually.
be like sitting there and it's like, just wait until so and so episode. Just you wait. And like, because my one friend who I got to watch it years ago,
Yeah,
there was this picture of Lou and Ty dancing at Caleb and Ashley's wedding, and she saw it and she freaked out thinking that like Lou and Ty were a thing. And I
yeah.
let her believe it. I let her believe it. I was like, just you wait.
Actually, that reminds me of when I started to read the books, like way back in the day. One of my friends had read the first book before me,
Okay.
and I read the back of the book, and it said something like, Amy has an accident with her mother, and like everything changes. And I asked my friend, like, oh, does her mother die? Like, is that what's gonna happen? And she was like, thinking like, I'm not gonna, tell you the truth. I'm just gonna lie to you. I'm just gonna
Mm.
say that, no, her mother survives, because that way I will be more like, wait, she actually died? Like,
In the first episode, yeah, you would really, yeah.
yeah, because if I would have
It's rare.
went and read the book like, well, she's gonna die, I'm not gonna get attached or whatever, it would have been very
Yeah.
different experience.
Right. So you didn't know.
Yeah, so I was like,
That's
so
very
where is she
cool.
coming alive? Like, I was told she didn't
Is
die,
she?
so
Yeah.
like, what's this?
That's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so I have the last comment from Cell Dance. It says, I used to love Amy and Ty so much when I was a teenager. Their respect for each other and the fact that their love was based on a friendship was what really spoke to me. Amy and Ty's wedding was possibly the loveliest story ever. It was as close to perfect as it can get, in my opinion. But I also love the storyline from episode 814, which is season 8, episode 14,
Yep.
where
Yep.
Lily has relapsed again, and it's hard for Ty to go and visit her. When Ty finally starts to tell her the real reason, Amy closes the truck door and just listens, and then offers to go with him. They used to read each other so well. Personally, I see Heartland as a show that is kind of divided in half. The first 8 seasons were great, and season 9 forward, not so much. All of these conferences in Mongolia storylines really sucked, and the breakups over the years were painful to watch. I love the
that's fair.
that Ty was to Lindy, if you don't count the fact that he traveled a lot. At least those around Lindy can tell her that Ty was pretty hands-on dad. Yeah.
And I mean, Lindy's so young that she's not even gonna remember.
Yeah.
Which is fair to say, but Amy would, right?
Yeah.
Amy would remember the fact that she had to go through it alone. But that's fair comment. I like it.
Yeah. And I think at this point we don't know how long the show will go on, but if we get more seasons and Lindy starts to kind of have more of understanding of her surroundings, like, it will be interesting if they kind of talk about that, like,
right,
like what Ty was like, and does she remember anything about him, and like, here's a picture, like, do you remember how he looked, or like what do you remember about him, like maybe him doing faces or like whatever he would have done.
Well, and she's gonna be 5, so she would be going to school as well.
Yeah. So I like that they are doing this thing with Harley as a way
Yes.
of keeping him close, because you know we don't know what will happen with Amy, like if she's gonna be with someone else or not. But like it doesn't change the fact that you know Ty is Lindy's dad.
Absolutely.
So I don't think, like, no matter what happens, that Amy's gonna like try to get Lindy not to think about Ty anymore or
Yeah.
anything like that. I think
Of course not.
she'll cherish his memory, and Lindy will learn to remember.
Follow in his footsteps and go save the Gobi Bears.
Yeah, like who knows?
Heartland season 32.
Yeah,
And there's like 5 episodes.
yeah. It's getting
But-
like shorter
yeah.
and shorter.
Okay, well, what are your favorite Ty and Amy moments?
Well, I remember like I liked them in season 1, like right away, like the potential of their like
Yes, I agree.
relationship. But I remember for me the first moment that kind of made me cross the line to liking and loving them was it episode 8 or what it was when Amy was working with Gallant Prince and the guy who had
and they were crying in his truck, or
Yeah.
she was crying in his truck. Yes.
and there was this like moment of will they kiss
you thought
or
they were going
not?
to kiss, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember being like, okay, yeah, I'm loving
Yeah.
this. So
Yep.
that's definitely one of the moments that I remember liking like right away. And there's still that much magic in it, even after all
Yeah.
these years. And I think the season 1 finale, I love the moment
Yes.
where they're kissing for the first time, because it was kind of like, okay, finally.
Yeah. You know what? That's something that they did do really well, because you know how many times you watch a show and it's like season 5 when the main characters finally kiss, they make you wait like that
and
long.
then it's like it's the end of the show, like
yeah, and that's
seriously?
they kiss once and then that's the last episode of the show.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly how it happens. So
but
gotta
I
give them
also
kudos for that.
love that it wasn't like rushed, that there was room for that kind of like teenage like awkwardness and like
and
all
that pretzel moment was
Yeah.
that was season 1, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah, yeah.
season 1. See, they came close to kissing there then too.
Yeah.
That was
So
cute.
I love those from season 1. Then in season 2, like I know there was problems with that stuff, but I remember I love the cattle drive, like them having that kiss, and it's just having
and the conversation. Yeah,
it just had that, I don't know, like honesty in that moment that I loved. And then the kiss in the rain, I think, you know, that was romantic, even though
that was one of everyone's favorites, I think.
Yeah, because it just was this like larger than life moment.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, there are problems in that moment as well. But like I'm trying to kind of like not
focus on the good.
Yeah.
Focus on the good.
And then of course in season 2 when he gets sick and she's like,
the finale.
Yeah, like not sure if he's pulling through, and everything's just like, this feels like it's now or never, and like let's not take this for granted.
Oh yeah. And then when she had like the next morning when she goes to close to the fire, and then he tells her that she's beautiful.
Yeah,
they're like a little babies in that scene. It's so cute.
And then in the like one of the last moments of the episode or the whole season, he's kind of like, well, say it again, like you love me or something. And she's like awkward about it, and I just think that was very realistic, because usually in shows it's always like this epic like I love you, like but then the like it just felt like this, well, I feel this, but it's like
it's very realistic. I agree. And then when Mallory said, she say it's about time or something?
Yeah. And I think,
She's such a little matchmaker.
yeah, and I think Mallory was often the voice of the audience. And I think
Oh my god, yeah.
she was that in
Yeah.
that moment. And then,
She's a voice for the voiceless.
yeah. And then season 3, the dance,
Yeah, that was a good
the
season.
plane crash, her trying to find Ty
yes.
with the help of Harley. And yeah, I just there are a lot of good moments in season 3, but like those stand out to me. And then well, season 4, well, it doesn't have a lot of like happy moments, but I think the acting was good. And I
agree.
remember like being like heartbroken when they broke up, and just Amy's crying, and
they did
having
a good job,
this like frustrating moment in the loft. And I remember that made a big impact on me. And then the finale with them joining hands, and it's just that moment like, okay, is this happening?
They're friends again. They're friends again. And that little bit of hope, it was a really good finale, I think.
Yeah, it was done in such a subtle way that I just
realistic as well.
But then that's kind of the magic of it, because it's not too much or too. It's just
it was like just what it needed, just what that scene needed. Yeah.
And I think overall I love those kind of moments the most, where not a lot of is said, but you can still feel what's
that's
going on.
How you know it's good acting.
Yeah.
Because anyone can stand there and say lines, but to make you, the audience, believe it and feel it is a whole other thing.
Yeah. Season 5, there were a lot of cute moments, but I remember when Ty's dad died, it was kind of like this huge deal, because Heartland overall is this like carefree, happy show, but that just kind of made them step into this more mature, like,
it's like a harsh reality.
Yeah, it's like, so this is like what life really is, and
exactly
we're gonna have these like hard moments, and how are we going to deal with that? And the moment where Amy goes to Ty's trailer and he's on the bed, and I think that was done very well, and it's just like no words were needed. You can just feel that comfort in that scene. And then well, as frustrating as it was, the season 5 finale of her doing the dark horse thing, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna propose. And
I wish he would have proposed in that episode. And then he should have just, you know what they should have done? He should have been like, will you marry me? And then they just end it right there. That's what they should have done.
And she's like, and we don't know.
She doesn't answer. Yeah. And then they should have just went to season 6. That's what they should have did.
Because I didn't like what they did with the first part of season 6.
Was embarrassing. Yeah.
The whole like,
it was so awkward
pretend
and uncomfortable.
That you don't know, but you know, but then I'm gonna mess up this date, and Lou knows, and then I don't know what I'm waiting for. Like, it was just,
it was a mess. And then by the time like the engagement actually happened, it was like, the excitement's kind of over.
But I think they did the proposal well. Like,
they did, for sure.
It was this anticipation, and you were like, okay, come on, let him ask. And then in the final moments of that mid-season finale, he's like proposing, and she says yes. And then that Georgie being caught in the fire thing happens, and it's like the stakes are high and whatever. I think
I'm not a fan of season 6.
But then I don't know, from season 6, is that like
no,
that's
really
it? But then in season 7, Darkness and Light overall is a really interesting episode, because I remember being such a huge deal, because we didn't know what would happen. So I think it was important that they focused so much on them in that
You know,
episode.
it's funny for. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in that episode, because it was kind of this final push of them towards the marriage. It was like this, like, okay, we know we're committed now. Like, there's a ring, but like,
It was like the first, I mean, I don't want to say the first big thing they went through because they did have that big breakup, but it was a very challenging, probably the
Yeah.
most challenging thing they've ever faced together.
yeah. But then I don't know, like from that point on, like there aren't many that I'm like
Yeah.
excited about
My
because
faves are just in the earlier seasons. I don't have anything
yeah,
past season 6.
because it's like I know a lot of people would say, you know, when Amy tells Ty that he's gonna be a dad, but I also felt that was kind of like a lot like
Rushed.
the wedding. Yeah, it was kind of like yeah, like
And we
okay, I guess that's
and we
happening
don't
now.
even see her even thinking that she's pregnant or even getting a test or like anything. It was just, you're gonna be a father, and it's like, oh, they were trying? Okay.
Yeah, like
You know?
mhm. And then I know this is such weird pet peeve for some, but like I would have preferred if there would have been some like morning sickness or something, and they would have been
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, you don't think. And then she does the test, and he's there with her to kind of see the test. But the way they did it, it was like Amy was sitting on this like secret for who knows how long. And I felt even in that moment they were getting kind of divided.
Mm.
And then from then on, like the pregnancy throughout season 10, and he's gone. He's not there to kind of go through these steps with her in season 11,
Season
kind
10
of the
was a shit
same
show.
kind of the same thing. Like, yeah, he almost dies, but like nothing really changes. And
Ta-da.
yeah, and then it's just season 12. I know they started to kind of work together, but not really. And
Yeah. And
season
yeah.
13, I just felt like it was just
Yeah,
watered down
yeah.
version of what I used to love. So
Mm-hmm.
those are kind of my favorite moments, but it's
Yeah.
mostly just the first 7 seasons.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like I got it all out of my system. It feels great.
Yeah, it was like this was like Tammy
Therapy?
detox or something.
Therapy?
Like, yeah. Something like
Heartland therapy.
yeah.
Because Mongolia screwed us all up in the head.
Yeah.
No, my favorite Ty and Amy moment is probably the season 3 finale when she chases after him on horseback and asks for
Yeah.
her ring back. Probably. If I had to
Yeah.
pick, if I had to pick one, I'd pick that, I think.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
one.
probably season 3 was the best for them in my humble opinion.
Yeah, like there were ups and downs, but it was just like
It was still that puppy love at the same time,
yeah,
right?
and they were getting stronger together. And
What do you think the age difference is? Because she would have been a minor when they met, and he would have been an adult, right?
I think I think he turned 18 in season or around the season 1 finale because he was kind of free from the foster care.
Right. So then, and Amy was starting high school, so she would have been 15.
Yeah.
Ish.
So it's
So,
not
okay.
a lot.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's still legal.
Yeah. And then in season 2, he was 18, 19, and she was
He would have been
13.
19 at the end of the
Yeah.
season. Right.
Yeah. So it's not a lot.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as he wasn't going to be like 19, 20, and she would have been 14, 15.
Yeah, that would have been like
No, that's not okay. But yeah, that's our show for you guys today.
Yeah, like I know maybe people were expecting this to be like all good stuff, but we just have opinions. I'm sorry.
But we did. We talked about the good stuff and the bad stuff, just like
Yeah.
we do with all the couples.
Yeah.
Like don't make it seem like we hate them. I love Ty and Amy up until season 7.
Yeah, and I think
Shit.
the thing is like them having so much screen time, it's kind of like there's a lot of room to have feelings about those
Yeah,
things.
and there's no right or wrong. They're fictional characters, guys. So
Yeah.
take it very lightly, everything we say.
Yeah, and like I think we all see them in a different way based on, you know, who we
Absolutely.
are.
Who our
So
faves are and stuff too.
yeah.
Like,
So
yeah,
just because we feel this, don't feel like you need to kind of
yeah.
defend your take,
No, of course not.
because
Of
you
course
know
not.
it's yours, and like
And we love having opinionated pieces because that's when really intriguing conversations start.
yeah,
And it's not over controversial stuff like a lot of things are nowadays. It's having this discussion about this fictional world that doesn't
yeah,
exist, but we love so much. So there really isn't a wrong answer or reply to anything
yeah,
because it's just an opinion and it's about something that doesn't exist. You know,
yeah.
so it
And I
doesn't,
think
there's no wrong way to answer.
it's also important to have discussions about these kind of things, because even though they're fictional, you know, circumstances, it's at the same time it's a way for you to like reflect how you feel about
Yeah.
it, because I know that my opinion has changed throughout the show. Like
Absolutely.
what I once felt is not the same, because I've had these discussions with people and I've been able
new
to
experiences and life experiences changes your opinions and views on things.
Yeah. And I think it's important to keep that open mind, especially with
Absolutely.
something like this, because it's not that serious, but at the same time,
No.
it teaches you about seeing the world from a different perspective. And
diving into characters in depth like we do is like it teaches you a lot about humans at the same time, because you can just depict what people are like and why they're like that, and going through their past to figure out why they act like they act now. That's, you do the same thing with humans. You can be understanding as to why they are the way they are.
yeah, because if you never go deep into those kind of situations, like whether they're from your own life or whether it's like from a show, you're missing out a lot of like things, not just for yourself, but you know, for everyone else as well.
Yeah. Well, I never used to like nitpick at these characters like we do now, because like as a kid, you don't talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? Like you don't know anything about, I mean, you'd be really smart if you did, but going into depth with characters or even just a person and taking bits and pieces apart and then putting them back together to see why it is the way it is. I wasn't doing that as a kid. It's as you get older and you become an adult and it's like, oh, so that's why you don't even realize you don't think about it. It's just a process that happens in your brain, and you just, as you grow and you have experiences, it changes.
Yeah, it's just automatic response to something based on something else. And I think for me, for the longest time, I felt like I couldn't criticize the writers because they were giving us this beautiful story, and like it would somehow mean that I was ungrateful or like something.
No.
But then eventually, as I grew up and started to kind of understand that it's okay to not agree with everything, and you can criticize something and still like it, and it's just like you know,
like there's lots of things about the show or like the storylines in the show that I don't like, but that doesn't like make me hate the show. That would be pretty dumb. Like it would have to be a pretty severely messed up storyline. Like the eating disorder one was pretty close, but
yeah, and it's not like black and white. I used to think things like more black and white, but now I'm like, okay, there are gray colors and I can acknowledge them, but I don't have to agree with them, but you know,
like, like I've straight up like told the writers in person like how much like whatever favorite episodes they've written or whatever. I love Heather and Mark especially, and then Ken, and I can't even remember who else writes right now, Alexandra.
Yeah.
All very nice people. Like they're humans who are writing a fictional story. So
Yeah.
I feel like they wouldn't even take it personally. I hope they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. I think by now they know that it's
Yeah, like
stems
I
from
adore them and I respect them to no end, but that doesn't mean I like everything that they write either. But it's fiction.
yeah.
So
And
I'm
I
like,
think
it's
they've
not a big deal.
they've been able to translate the opinions
Yeah,
and feelings mean that these people are passionate about what they've
right.
been able to create, and that's
Yeah, like
in a
we
way
wouldn't
a
have this
compliment.
podcast.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have this podcast if we weren't passionate about it in a good way.
Yeah. And I think it's just important to keep in mind under those comment sections where you're like
Yeah,
taking sides and you're like, no, you're wrong because of this
yeah.
and this and this. Like, maybe just take
Maybe
time
you're
to
both
listen.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like like
yeah,
truth doesn't always mean the same thing for everyone, or
yeah.
like the right thing
Yes.
or the wrong thing, because
Mhm.
we're different.
Yeah.
So like while we have a lot of criticism towards this couple and the characters, like we're
We love
still
them.
we're
Yeah.
still
They're
we're
like
s-
family to me, honestly.
yeah
That's what it feels like.
we've
I mean,
been
you talk shit about your family, so
yeah, we've been entertained by them for 14 years,
yes.
and it's
And
just
very thankful for it. Very
yeah.
thankful for
And I
every
think
single moment.
our lives would be different if it wasn't for them. So that's, I think, the main
Yeah.
takeaway from all of this.
Yeah. Like it's literally been half of my life, if not like 80-90% of it, that I am curious to see what life is going to be like without it. Like, and
Yeah.
generally because the podcast takes up a lot of time because we're doing a lot of stuff to prep for it. And then you have your blog and we have the Instagram. Like Heartland is literally part of our lives daily
Yeah.
for
It's
the
like
past decade or so. So when this ends, don't ask where we are because I'm probably going to go onto like a nudist retreat and like drink all the stuff so that I can forget what happened. Like
and then
that's
you're gonna be like all
a brand new
intoxicated and
person.
talking about like that Jack was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And someone's like,
Season
who's this
6
Jack?
finale when they just left him in the snow and I was sitting there waiting for like months to figure out if my fave was dead or not, and you'd think it was like an actual human who had died. Nay.
Yeah. Like you don't
That's gonna be me in
understand.
like the old folks home.
Yeah.
I remember 2013. That was the year that it happened.
Yeah. Well, just goes to prove that it's just
Not like I remember, guys.
yeah,
What?
it's kind of like
What?
I don't remember what happened in 2014, but I remember that happened. Like
My dumb boyfriend at the time when I was like 13, he's like, I don't know why you're so upset. It's just, don't tell me that. Don't tell me it's fictional.
obviously an ex at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like for that
Crap.
reason alone.
For that reason solely.
Anyway, I think we should wrap this up. I mean, this has been like
Yeah, we've been talking
million
for like
hours,
2
but
hours.
I hope you guys
2 hours?
enjoyed
Over
this
2 hours?
because
We
had a lot
have
to
fun
say.
doing this. We have
Yeah.
way too much fun.
I think in a way I feared this episode and topic because I knew that we would have to, we can't contain ourselves.
No,
it
we
comes to-
cannot.
Yeah.
And there's evidence of this.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, what you guys can take away from this is that we love Ty and Amy, but that doesn't mean we like all of the storylines.
Yeah. And I think what their like story and love, like what I was thinking in season 14 while watching, like maybe they were my favorite, but what the writers were kind of trying to come across with was that love really never ends. And I think as a couple, that's a beautiful kind of take away from something that was,
Yeah.
that
Well,
lasted
that's the
for,
same with Jack and Lisa.
yeah.
I hated the season 6 storylines, but that doesn't mean that I don't still love them and I don't hate the writers because it's just at the end of the day, it's just a show, right? Like,
Yeah. And I think, even if, someone dies or
mm,
whatever, or you break up with someone, like they can still have a lot of meaning in your
yep.
life. And
Mhm.
don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because
Yeah,
that's something
exactly.
that's important to you. Like, hold
Yeah.
that close, because
The opinions, if
that's
it makes you happy and if it makes sense to you, it does not have to make anyone else happy and it does not have to make sense to anyone else because it is your life
yeah.
to live and it is your life to be free to think what you want, whether people agree with you or not.
Yeah, because that's what life is really about, like finding those things that bring you
Living,
joy and
love,
get you
happiness. Yeah.
through hard times and everything.
Yeah.
Because, it's never
I think
silly if,
that's what the show teaches people, I think.
yeah, it's never silly if it makes you happy.
Nope.
So if you're still craving, the loss of time, then, let
Welcome
that
to the
take,
club.
yeah, like let that take its time, because
Yeah.
just because something's fictional doesn't mean your
Yeah.
feelings are fictional, because
Well,
they're real.
like, okay. So obviously, like when Jack and Lisa broke up, I was an actual wreck, like crying, but I would never actually admit it to anyone because unless if you like actually are heavily involved into a show like we are, you don't understand when someone cries over it, right? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like some people would say that to me all the time, like it's just a show. No, it's not.
Yeah,
Like
like
it's my
the
whole
what's
life.
happening in your brain and heart and everything
Yeah.
is happening. It's
Yeah.
actually happening.
No one can tell you that it isn't. Like, it's your life. It's what you think. It's what you feel. Don't
Yeah.
let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah. I don't remember what the quote is exactly from Harry Potter, but Dumbledore says something like, just because it's not real. Sorry, I have to actually pull this up because I think it's,
Do it. That's a good
yeah.
idea.
So there's this quote from Harry Potter where Dumbledore says, "Of course it is happening inside your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean it's not real?"
Mm,
That's kind of like,
that's incredible. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I think that's a good way to end this.
Basically, like, just if it's not real to other people, that doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah. So I'll guess we'll see you next week, and until then, if you've been crying because you've been thinking about Ty and Amy, maybe there's a little bit of something under your nose, like, please keep your nose clean.
And your powder dry. And yeah, we'll see you next week
Yeah.
for episode 23.
Holy smokes.
I know. Quitting my day job.